Hey, Pulse Church, just wanted to make you aware of some of the strategic changes that we are bringing into place from this week onwards. I want to remind you how Pulse Church defines success. Last year, towards the end of the year, during one of the sermons, I mentioned to you that Pulse Church defines success in three ways. Number one, deep heart transformation. If you've been around this church, you know that this church is about transformation of the heart, because the heart is the source of life, right? And so in order for us to really be transformed into the image of Jesus, we need to be transformed in our hearts. Secondly, the way we define the success at Pulse Church is a visibly loving community. Jesus said that the world will know that you are my disciples by the love you have for one another. So when we start laying down our lives for one another, when we start sacrificing for one another, when we start investing into one another's lives, that's when we are showing love for one another. Yes, we've done some amazingly loving things, especially when people have been going through crises, have had babies born, or have lost loved ones. We've been there for one another, but we want our church to start embracing the culture where we are loving one another in such a way that people ask questions about this kind of love that we have for one another. That's number two. Number three is hearts that are one. This is what Jesus prayed for the night before he went to the cross. The most important thing he prayed for his church was that we would be one, just as him and the Father are one. And so those are the three ways we define success at Pulse Church, based on what we see in the scriptures and based on how God has been leading us. And so based on that framework is what has led us to pray about this current season and then how God is leading us. And so if you've been around our church for a while, you'd well be aware that from July last year, every first Sunday of the month was Love Our Community Sunday. And so we've been going out into our community and reaching people and praying for them and encouraging them with the gospel. And it has borne much fruit over the last 6 months or so. The Lord's been good to us. We've seen several people come and join our church through those efforts. And so we're very grateful for that. However, during this season, it was incumbent upon us to really seek God's face, pray, and see if he wanted to change our strategy in any way. And so what we've decided to do is we want to really focus our efforts on equipping you to be the son and daughter of God that you need to be in the world, equipping you to really start thinking biblically about certain social issues, cultural issues, biblical themes and narratives, and really just equip you to be a follower of Jesus in the world that we meet in. And so in light of that, we decided to change our first Sundays to being Equip Sundays. So every first Sunday of the month will no longer be Loving Our Community Sunday, but will be Equip Sundays. And so the objective for our Equip Sundays would be, number one, to connect you with one another so that you're connected to one another's hearts, that you begin to know one another and know each other's stories and backgrounds and contexts. The second objective for our Equip Sundays is to engage our hearts and our minds with biblical themes and narratives, with social issues, with cultural issues, and anything that you may be struggling with, anything that you want to grow in, anything that you feel you want to learn more about so that you're more equipped to be a Christian in the world that we live today. And so I'm excited about that. And so we'd love to hear from you on Sunday with regards to what you want to be equipped in. So that's the second objective. The third objective is to encourage you. We want to build one another up in the faith. We want to pray with one another. We want us to walk away having feel that our identity as Christians in the world is really been encouraged and cemented and built up by our time together. So that is our Equip Sundays. The first Sunday of every month from now on is Equip Sundays. Now you may be wondering, are we stopping our evangelism efforts, or are we putting that on hold for a season? Well, the answer is both yes and no. Because as you know, we've decided to carry on meeting every Wednesday night for worship and prayer. We did that during the fasting season, and God was really moving in and amongst us. He was creating a desire and a hunger in us for Him. And we really also grew in intimacy with one another as we just bare our hearts and our souls before the Lord, and as we cry out to Him together. And so because we are carrying on with our Wednesday night prayers, we've also realized that prayer is actually the groundwork for evangelism. Prayer sets the foundation for evangelism. I want to mention Matthew chapter 9, 36 to 38. When he saw the crowds, he felt compassion for them because they were distressed and dejected like sheep without a shepherd. And so this is Jesus looking out into a lost world, seeing that they did not have a shepherd, they did not have a savior. They were distressed and dejected. And so because of Jesus' heart of compassion for lost people, he says in the next verse, the harvest is abundant, but the workers are few. Therefore pray to the Lord of the harvest to send out workers into the harvest. So in other words, Jesus is saying, when you see lost people, don't start strategizing about what you should do. The first port of call is to pray, is to come before the Lord and pray and ask Him to send out workers into the harvest. Now, it may well be that we will carry on our evangelism efforts the way we have done so in the future. But for now, we are redirecting our evangelism efforts into praying every Wednesday night, praying strategically and intentionally, praying so that we can experience more of God's presence and power. And I really believe that in our Wednesday nights, we'll be able to catch a glimpse of the heart of God for lost souls. The same heart that Jesus had for lost souls when He walked the earth, when He was filled with compassion for them, is the heart I believe we will catch as we meet every Wednesday night for prayer and worship. Wednesday nights have been very, very special. I'm now really looking forward to them every Wednesday as much as I do Sunday mornings, to be honest. And so because we are carrying on with Wednesday nights, and because our evangelism efforts are now redirected to Wednesday nights, we've decided that we will suspend our missional communities for a season. Before you throw a hissy fit, here's the reason why. We're also aware that there's a lot on our plates. We're also aware that our times are limited, our capacities are limited. And so we've decided that we're suspending our missional communities for now, because if we can get this right, if we can recommit our efforts into Wednesday nights and Sunday mornings, then we really believe that we are obeying the Lord in this season of our church. I hope you're catching the heart of what we're trying to say. I hope you're catching the heart of what God is trying to do in and through our church. The last change as well, it's just a minor change. So we've had our WhatsApp group going for 3 years now, ever since we started the church. And obviously we started with just a handful of us, but now our church has grown. I think we currently stand about 40 odd adults and kids, probably even more with the number of kids that have joined us in the last couple of Sundays. And so we're finding that there's a lot of traffic that goes on in our church WhatsApp group. And sometimes there's conversations that happen on there between people as well. And what we're finding is that because we're also spread thinly, I mean, most of us belong to 101 WhatsApp groups. And so there's constant messaging. We're constantly bombarded. It can be a distraction. And so we've decided that we want to make it a broadcast group solely for the purpose of communicating information week to week about what's going on in the life of our church and letting people know about various things. And so we're going to change our WhatsApp group to an admin group. And so only a few of us, me and probably a couple of the other leaders, will be able to just send and post messages on that group. And then should you want to have conversations with other people, you obviously have their number. You're welcome to do that. You obviously know my number and other leaders' numbers as well. You can reach out to them. Well, we've decided, for the sake of time and for the sake of really making that group concise, that this is a place where we can just communicate important information that people of our church need to be aware of, and that's it. Because there's so many other variables to this as well, and we found that it's not as helpful with so many people just putting on information on that group. Just for the sake of brevity, for the sake of just making sure that that group is not overrun with traffic, because you're involved in so many other WhatsApp groups, we're going to be changing the WhatsApp group to a purely admin group. I hope that makes sense. But those are just some of the changes that we're making. But I'm really excited about this direction that God is leading us to. And so please keep praying into this, because we're entering a season where I feel that God is preparing our hearts for what He has in store for us. He's getting us ready. And so we need to embrace what He has for us with both hands, with all of our hearts, and keep pressing into this. And so I hope you are encouraged by these new moves. If you have any questions, please feel free to give me a shout. But otherwise, yeah, man, we love you guys so much. We're excited about what God has in store for this church, and we'll chat to you soon. Cheers.